let's get some more analysis. Go live to Los Angeles and speak to Kirk Hartman this morning, Chief Investment Officer of Wells Capital Management, where he helps oversee about $355 billion in assets. A good 2012 to you, Kirk. So it looks like the market's saying that Armageddon has been avoided, and 2012 should be a little bit better than last year. What do you think?
Well, I agree. I think we're off to a good start. The equity markets are up something like 4%. Manufacturing and autos look pretty good. And I think equities are going to have a pretty good year.
Okay, well, what do you mean by pretty good? Are we going to see single-digit, gains at the end of this year, maybe even double digits?
I would guess 10%, and I think, the U.S. markets would be a lot higher if it were not for Europe. So as long as the events in Europe continue to be calm, I think the U.S. markets will do well.
Well, it seems that Mario Draghi is patting himself on the back, saying that what the ECB has done so far seems to be working. Do you think a credit crunch has been averted? Has the worst-case scenario been taken off the table now?
Well, I think we've moved from crisis to fear, and that's a good thing. I think the $628 billion of money, injected into the banking system is good. I think you see that evidenced by the Italian yield curve. A couple of months ago, the Italian yield curve was inverted with short-term rates at 7.25 and long-term rates at 7. Today, you saw the auctions went very well, and Italian short-term rates are down in the 3% area, so you have a steep yield curve. If we were going to have a crisis, we'd have an inverted yield curve. So I think we've moved from crisis to fear, which is a good thing.
Okay, well, dare I say it then, if it seems like we have fear on the table, do you want to go in, maybe picked up some of these distressed assets and sold down values that we saw over the past year in Europe?
Well, I think you have to be patient. I think we're going to continue to have some bumps along the way. But again, I'm optimistic. I salute Mr. Draghi. I think the $628 billion was good. And even though he hasn't mentioned it, there always is quantitative easing on the table down the road. But I think Europe will continue to muddle through. I think that's going to be the story for quite a while.
Okay, so what about the rest of the world? Kirk, what are you doing with $355 billion? That's a lot of cash to put around.
Well, I like large cap. I like in the U.S. I like high yield. I think this is the perfect environment for high yield. I also like growth and income in the emerging market space. I would do a balanced portfolio of dividend yield with some higher beta stocks like technology or semiconductors so that you have a balanced portfolio. But a lot of great emerging market stocks, I mentioned this last time I was on your program, are in the 4% dividend yield area, which is pretty good. So across the board, I think you can get 5 to 10%, whether it's in the emerging markets or in the U.S.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to name some names, Kirk?
Well, I can't name specific names. I think I've mentioned I like technology. I've liked the semiconductor area, and I like dividend yield. So I think those are good areas to look at, as well as high-yield U.S. bonds.
Okay. What about for U.S. markets? Consensus is this is probably the best space to be putting your cash this year. What about the earnings season? What are you watching out for?
Well, I think the earnings are going to be pretty good. And, again, with the 10% prediction, I would continue to look for strength in manufacturing, strength in autos. I see a lot of smaller companies doing well. NASDAQ is up 4%. I was looking, for instance, at a ball bearing company that makes precision parts. I can't name names, and we may own it. But, companies like that, which are in very specific niches, with their rebound in aircraft and automobiles, those kind of manufacturing companies probably do pretty well.
Okay, Kirk. It's always good to see you. Thanks again for your time. Have a great weekend. Kirk Hartman joining us from Los Angeles, Chief Investment Officer for Wells Capital.